it's working. OBS is already running. Why would I open OBS again? I'm so keen. Also, subscribe to Windrops. It's automatically activated. Wow, thank you, brother. Truly, what I needed. Uh, an enforced advertisement kind of stuff. Uh, what is? Why are we not waiting? Good question. Because there is nothing to actually wait for today. I don't feel like waiting. There is truly nothing to wait for. So yeah. Ah, what a what a crazy life, man. It's already. It's almost Friday actually. It's still Thursday here, but yeah. What a what an existence, brother. Truly something funny to be alive, I guess. I don't know. I wouldn't say it exactly in the sense of wow, yeah, you know. Being existing is quite a crazy idea today. But yeah, the point is here we are. So not much to actually complain about. I think so. I I think that's sometimes, as always, it's more than enough. So yeah, I would prefer that. But yeah, I don't know. Do we have any plan today? Is can I give a proper explanation of what we are going to do today? Yeah. Besides the most basic kind of yeah, this is actually just. I guess it's always just chatting. No, that's like the implied message. Besides that, I don't know. I think it's just discussing things, discussing life. I guess there are there are way too many things happening. Man, what a what a crazy existence. I guess it's. I always say, is something actually going on today? I don't think so, but at the same time, yeah, there is stuff happening around us. It's like the world moves in directions and in different areas, and yeah, things do happen in some way or another, but at the same time, it also doesn't impact us all that much. It's just a little bit of being, and that's more than enough. I think so. At least that's what I feel like. So yeah, I I think everything is good. I I feel like everything is nice despite everything else. I guess I don't know. I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't actually go for the idea of yeah. It's the world has been quite chaotic lately, and I guess in a more proper sense, not exactly the whole world. It's as always more of a personal issue, nearby systems type of issue, something along those lines, you know, in which not everything is moving in the direction in which you would expect it to move, in the way in which it will feel the best, so to speak. But at the same time, it's not so much of a requirement for that to happen. It's not an obligation for things to actually go in any one direction. So it's fine. It's actually quite fine, you know? It's, I think, let me say like this, many things have been happening. None of them actually have that much of an impact on us. I think it's crazy to see that we are still here. Everything is moving. The world is still going, so to speak. So that's a basic enough ground for us. And that's a sufficient enough level of existence, so to speak, of anything, to also be happy with what we have. It's it can be something that otherwise we could consider negative or bad enough to complain about it, but it's not actually something that requires, deserves, gains that title of thing to complain about. It's just the world, I guess. Getting accustomed to living. It's the intensity of, let's say like that, the intensity of having to be compared to the act of actually being in a way in which it does feel properly interesting, you know? It's crazy to realize that, yeah. I have been thinking about that lately. I remember this whole idea of something very funny that happens. One of the many precepts, so to speak, that I wouldn't, it's, yeah, I wouldn't know exactly which one of them. One of the many branches of religion, I guess. I don't know which one of them, or if actually all of them talk about it, or if only a handful or whatnot. One of many biblical concepts is the human asks for things, the human demands out of God, so to speak. Like, dear God, can you make me rich? Can you give me more time to work on stuff? Can you give me more life? Stuff of that sort, you know? And all of that is true. The people, the human, I, closest example possible. I am always demanding stuff. And something funny to see is not only that it happens in terms of, yeah, we are endlessly demanding things out of life, so to speak. It's an unavoidable reality that we would be expecting stuff out of existence. It's no matter how hard we say that it is necessary to get rid of any expectation, it is still intrinsic to the human being to try and anticipate the stuff out of the world. It's not such an easy action to actually cleanse your mind out of any possible allusion to the future. And so, when it comes to the present times, what we encounter most often is, yeah, we're still demanding things. Okay, that's the basic idea. And what happens, that's the twist that religion gives to that idea, is what we demand from God, so to speak. It's given to us in different ways. It's given to us, maybe not so straightforward. We are weighed down by our own desires, so to speak. It's something along the lines of, yeah, you get all that you wish for in a much more intense manner than what you can actually sometimes realize. And that's, I don't know, I have been trying to personally grapple with that idea because I finally, it's one of those moments of realization, I guess, in which you sit down and look what's going on in existence, in life, and you observe something funny happen. I can actually identify something happening in many ways, in many directions, in terms of, wow, yeah. I myself can also see that, yeah, it's quite true, I I have slowly most of the things that I wished for before. And sadly, yeah, it's this endless necessity to keep on dreaming for even more, to keep on needing. I wouldn't exactly say needing, sort of, yeah, demanding. That's the proper term. To keep on demanding from life. That's the common thing, and that's the unavoidable part of us existing. And I don't know, I wouldn't say it in itself that it is something bad. I just think that it is quite funny. And I think about it in a way in which it makes me feel to some degree surprised. Because yeah, you wouldn't really expect things to go in the way in which you have been already thinking about them. It's like It's so easy for us to worry about everything in a certain way, but at the same time, we also gain quite a lot of everything that we want. Maybe not exactly in the biggest dimension possible, but it is slowly something that keeps on increasing, so to speak. I don't know. It's 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 complicated to give it a proper structure, w- mostly because it boils down to, yeah, in some cases I don't actually care all that much for what I have been dreaming for, what I have been consciously thinking about. I have other interests that are a little bit more deep inside of me, so to speak. I don't actually speak so much about what I want. I can only realize what I want only after I have sat down and spent, I don't know, 10 or 20 hours thinking about what is it that I actually desire. And yeah, in that same sense, it's the same thing happening here. And I don't know, I think it's funny. It's always something funny. It's it's the endless satisfaction found within existence that doesn't get to feel quite right. Mostly because, as I said before, you get what you want, but at the same time, you stop wanting what you have already gotten. You move on to even higher grounds of desire, even if it is something related to that already previously given thing. You keep on transforming it and making it look like an even more complicated version of itself, so that you don't have to worry yourself with getting or not what you want. You just get stuff. Or let's say like this. In a I might be using the wrong term. I don't think it is something so materialist or materialistic in any way. It's just that, yeah, in most cases, it is related to physical stuff. That's why I was going to use mate- materialism in that sense. You get something, you realize that the thing which you were desiring isn't actually giving you all the satisfaction that you Im- implied, supposed was going to exist on that thing the first time you thought about it. So you need to make an even more ideal mental version of that thing so that you can keep on deciding. In the case of not moving away from the initial desire, so to speak. Also, give me a second. I realized I didn't disconnect the mouse. My bad. Anyways, I was saying, what happens is, yeah, you realize what you get isn't capable of satisfying your thirst for satisfaction in some way, so to speak. And yeah, you have to keep on making it even more weird, even more abstract. The term is in itself ideal, implying that something ideal is understandable in any manner. And yeah, only through that it is that then we finally get to have something that allows us to feel somewhat fear. But at the same time, even when we get to transform what we have already in our hands into an even more complex form in that hypothetical future that we might be capable of aspiring to it or not, only then, and implying that it happens even, only then we are capable of aspiring to even more things. Yet at the same time, it never gets to be a fulfilled existence. It's always moving towards even more stuff. It's hard to actually, I guess, not exactly devise something that is fully capable of giving us satisfaction. It's more along the lines of just understanding that, yeah, I should be capable of realizing what I want, but at the same time, I cannot do that. It takes way too much time to do that, and in a sense, the moment in which I guess anybody, at least personally, I can say so, I have to think about which thing would actually give me the most satisfaction. In most cases, it also comes with the whole weight of, and you know what? Even if I have something that I say would make me happy, there are all these other layers of, wow. But at the same time, even if this were to make me happy, it might fail at some point. Or even if it were to be a sustained level of happiness, there might be another, even if it isn't completely sustainable level of happiness throughout time, higher level of happiness that I could aspire to in a different realm, in a different area of existence. And it's the eternal debate about which thing is it that I actually want to have in my hands, and which thing is it that I don't truly care for, that I only say I want, that I only say I have any kind of sense of desire, of interest on, so much as long as I can actually sit myself down to not think about which thing is it that I truly want to have. Then yeah, it's weird. It's quite weird, and it's understandable. It's not that I am saying this in a sense of wow, yeah, it's so crazy. Why does that happen? It's human nature in its purest form, I will say. That yeah, we want stuff. We don't have the capacity to actually, in some cases, understand that things are not capable of satisfying us, and we keep on deciding even more. And it's just trying to deal with all of that. It's, I guess, I don't know, the eternal act of acquiring consciousness, I guess. This whole idea. I haven't really, in a completely different line, let me see if I can tie these things together. In a completely different line, it feels also the same as a different realization that I had a while ago. It was something very funny that happened some time ago. There is a certain promise that we got to create in this modern, yeah, I wouldn't say modernity, in modern times, in more contemporaneous times, this whole way of conceiving at a first glance anything that has to deal with health, with or internal health, so to speak, and all of that stuff is funny, not because it isn't in any way accurate, but rather because we're capable of making up stuff and without searching if it is accurate or not, making up stuff that we cannot even share with others because we realize already that if we are to try and talk about it, we will feel ashamed. It's a sense of, so to speak, perceived but at the same time unspoken recognition of, yeah, I actually I have actually thought about things in very wrong ways, and I haven't been capable of, I don't have right now the capacity to talk out any of those things. I shouldn't try to do that. I have my own concepts about the stuff, and if I were to share them with you, you are going to probably laugh at me. I am probably going to get ridiculed and such. Maybe they are right, but maybe, most surely they are. Or even if they are right, you're not going to comprehend them like I do. You're not going to identify yourself with my own subjective narration of things, so I cannot speak about such things. And with this sense of shame, we have so much or so many things that lie in that same realm of stuff that we do not discuss. And why is this important? Because this is connected to, I think, drugs, not just drugs in general, anything, or yeah, drugs in the more absolute term. Drugs as also the drugs that you get from a pharmacy, the prescription drugs also enter into this category. The sort of drugs that you gain only if you talk with a clinician or with a psychiatrist or any kind of person like that. That type of drug also falls under this category. And all of that is interesting because at some point I think most people, I don't want to actually say most people, as always, let's keep it at personal level to not have so many issues talking about this. I myself realized that, yeah, at some point I had sort of in this endless process of idolizing stuff, I had somehow idolized the concept of medicine, and so it became that same thing of wow, yeah, I am going to have some kind of pill that is going to magically make me feel so much better. Wow, and certainly things don't work like that. So yeah, it's surprising to see the world keep on going or not keep on going. The proper term will be something along the lines, I guess, of see the world completely unfazed in in those moments of confrontation with people who seem to be utterly delusional. Not because it is necessary to react in any manner, but rather because it is a given possibility to do so. Therefore, it's rather sad that we are not interested in any way in discussing things of this sort, because first and foremost, we should be capable of understanding this principle of, yeah, sometimes I can also help someone else, not just myself in life. I can, at some point in my own existence, try to talk out things and try to see, wow, yeah, this person has an interesting, to say the least, way of attaching themselves to stuff or attaching themselves to as I said it, medicine in my case, I don't know, addictions, gambling, any kind of thing, video games, physical you name it, brother, you name it. And I think that happens in too many areas of life. And sadly, yeah, it's hard to actually be capable of removing that so at this point so trained, so lubricated mechanism of, yeah, you know what, I am going to see these things and I am going to actually believe that they are going to be the best stuff that can exist in my own existence so that I can have a nice life enough and I don't have the necessity to feel anything bad or the necessity to feel anything of any sort that isn't automatically as capable of giving me pleasure as anything else. And yeah, I I don't know. I'm continuing with that. Personally, I am always trying to do that. It's it's complicated because at the same time I can say it from a different perspective. At some point, it also stops being something that you can just think about and solve. It requires not just action in terms of, oh well, yeah, I need to, I don't know, stop consuming. I guess, for example, you become an alcoholic. I need to stop literally consuming alcohol or I'm going to fucking die. Okay, easy enough to just stop, but at the same time, it's also okay. I don't. I did that. Easy. What's next? And figuring out existence is, I don't know, complicated, risky, time consuming more than anything else, and it's fine. It's fine. But yeah, I like it. I I have been enjoying the act of being. Yes, that's the message that I was trying to go for. Being is bearable enough, suitable enough. At least for me, I don't know. I think at the same time, yeah, I am still trying to think about it. I only feel like the more I keep on experiencing stuff, the more I find myself surrounded by people that are unconsciously cynical. It's like such a normal thing to be incapable of having any kind of hope for stuff in the life of the average person, not because there is nothing to hope for, but rather because the norm is that it's easier to not hope for anything than to have any kind of interest. We have made way too many arguments about things that does not, yeah, don't actually improve our existence, but rather they allow us, in the present moment, to feel less burdened by existence itself. So at that point, we keep on cl- claiming and grasping at all of those things as if they were life-saving things. And I don't know, man. I am I'm slowly progressing. I want to think that. I want to tell myself that, mostly also to not have an spirit of always acting in a self-defeating manner and such. And sadly, what happens is also that it doesn't fully matter. Because sadly, it's not all that useful. No matter how much we get to progress, if the rest of the world is still a whole mess, it's only going to lead it to the same place in which we were before. I think so. Personally speaking, that's my conclusion. Or along the lines of, I can actually isolate. Yeah, wow. What a great solution. I leave the world. Wow. And no, I don't think that's useful personally speaking. So yeah, I am trying to live a balanced life. I guess that's the direction I was trying to go for. But it's fine. If stuff like that it doesn't happen, then what does actually happen? What's something that it does exist? What's something that it does go on? That does happen in any way, you know? What's something that impacts? I don't know. I I think I haven't actually processing quite a lot lately. So I'm happy with that. I think it's useful to be constantly in the act of trying to see stuff and observe and sense, as in sensation, sense. I even remember, yeah, recently there was this whole idea of, oh yeah, uh, return to the sensuality to life. This not in the sense of, wow, yeah, just the sexy thing, but rather the sensitivity, sensual life, senseful life, actually. And I don't know, yeah. I guess it's sort of obvious that stuff like that needs to happen. The same as, oh well, yeah. Surprisingly, at the same degree, or as much of an important thing, it is also to think about the stuff, you know? Otherwise, it's sort of complicated to reach any conclusion. I don't know. The unconscious apparatus does work endlessly, unavoidably, no matter what we do, but at the same time, to only rely on the unconscious apparatus to be capable of resolving things in our own existence, it's sort of counterproductive, let's say. Why? Because in some cases, something funny that happens is the moment in which I find myself actively engaged in the resolution of any kind of issue, I get to think about it with a much more wider range of, in this case, I guess, awareness, so that I can finally traverse the things properly, or not even that one is more proper than the other, more rapidly. Aren't we supposedly worried about time? Aren't we supposedly so tied to time and such? And we needed to actually, or to, well, yeah, actually always be on the moving and always doing stuff, and this endless sense of urgency that moves everyone towards all the things that exist nowadays, and what's not. Isn't that the norm? Okay, if that is so normal, I think it's not so much of a useless thing to be engaged in thoughts. in interest, in being interested in what we do, and I guess it's just that. Sometimes it's also what I was saying before. I can recognize it, but it takes me quite a long time to do so. And once I once I have in my hands the awareness about what is it that I actually want, I also find myself somewhat surprised. It's endlessly amusing to see that, yeah, in many cases also it happens that we end up realizing that we want things that are not so nice. I think it's funny to do that. It's this level of, oh yeah, yeah, I am a good person, I am a nice person, I am a I am a very properly raised human being. Therefore, I shouldn't have any kind of quote unquote weird alignment in regards to what is it that I desire, what is it that I have as an object of interest. Okay, true. That can happen. But at the same time, what can also happen is I can fixate myself on things slowly, silently enough, or slowly enough, so that I don't realize that sometimes I also have attached myself to things that are not all so beneficial. And I don't know. I don't want to actually mention them. I don't want to actually possess an awareness of those things because I don't want to look at any of those things, any of those attachments of mine, because if I were to do so, this eternal idea of I will have to recognize way more about me than what I am capable of, not because I don't have the capacity to recognize anything, but rather because in that particular instance of recognition, I will have to come in direct contact, or yeah, come into direct contact with all of that stuff that also is sort of not so much something that I would actually want to have happen in me, something that I would like to actually have exist on anybody. I guess it's this, once again, the best mode of seeing it. Be or do on others what you want to done on yourself. Okay, there are things that I also realize I don't want to see anyone doing. I don't think are useful for anyone, and somehow yet, despite how much I can say that, I identify stuff of that same sort existing on me. Then at that point, it becomes now a bigger issue than what I might be capable of actually solving, or at least solving in the instant in which I realize that stuff like that exists. And I don't know, I don't worry so much about it. I don't think that it is something so negative or something so utterly bad. It's just surprising to see that it is the norm, surprising to see that it is so much of a habitual thing. And yeah, it is still funny to have that. I guess it's not in itself something bad. It's a fun way of utilizing time. Let's say the slow act of approaching more and more all of the things that make us be that person which we end up actually being without becoming actually who we want to be, but rather the process of recognizing instead the version which we have become of our actual self, that one which is further away from or not in itself ideal, but rather desirable version, let's say, and that's funny. I think so. I don't think that in itself it's something so bad. It's just something that takes time. Just like everything else. I cannot actually complain. It's more than anything else. I am always thinking about it in that sense. to be capable of consciously doing that instead of having to struggle so much against any kind of external or yeah, or experience that through a forceful moment of so to speak, not recognition, but rather confrontation with the things and whatnot. I guess that will be much more complicated, yeah, but at the same time, it's just how life works. In some areas, we get to have a much wider or stronger control than what we can actually realize in some cases, and that's just how it works, habitually speaking. And yeah, I don't actually need to complain because things work. I just need to be capable of adapting myself to the way in which anything works. So that even if it works not exactly like how I want it to work, I can make it still function in my own favor, so to speak, you know? And yeah, I think that's most of existence, so to speak. It's fine, basically. Just slowly continuing through the process of remaining alive, I guess. Thank you. But yeah, besides that, anything else? I think so. Many things have been happening. It's quite a funny event, I will say. I think that yeah, it's crazy to see. Wait, give me a second, dear God. Wow. Good evening. I'm back. Sorry. I. It's getting. I don't know why. It's incredibly hot here for some reason. But anyways, uh, wait. I have a solution. Ah, why do I have to think about it now? Anyways, give me another minute. I think it's going to be worth it because I'm going to fix it. But give me a minute. Okay, here we are. Mm, yeah, I was right. It was actually going to make it more bearable. I don't know why, but yeah, stuff happens like that sometimes. Anyway, I was going for now, and I don't know, man. I think besides that, besides things that happen, things that we can actually say, things that we can't, I don't know. I haven't also lately learning a lot about this mode of understanding reality that is related with, I guess, mythology, the more symbolical aspect of existence, so to speak. It's not exactly complicated. It's very abstract to it. Let's say that's a proper definition. It's a very abstract way of thinking about the stuff, and even more so thinking about people and how we are accustomed to functioning and such. That's why I I try to not have such a hard time speaking about it, but yeah, I can't avoid having one. But yeah, let me try to see if I can very rapidly mention it. We're not going to actually spend so much discussing it deeply, I guess. Mostly because yeah, it's not a complete obligation of any sort. It's more along the lines of just something that I have still a lot to work with. But let me say like this: I haven't continued. Yeah, I have continued reading, learning, processing, experiencing, and seeing a reserve. Yeah, a constant theme that has to deal with the different myths, figures, stories that we can utilize to understand stuff. And I haven't been fully capable of explaining, at least to myself, I guess, how it works that we get to always require a sort of narration to move, I wouldn't say ourselves forward exactly in any direction to ourselves, even to, so to speak, move backwards. Sometimes we are obliged to have stories. The issue is we utilize the stories not exactly basing ourselves on reality. We only require something that seems powerful enough, capable enough of giving us any kind of justification for things. That's, I guess, a very basic statement, a very basic explanation of the phenomena. The sad reality becomes unavoidably we are not so capable ourselves of creating such stories. So we end up relying quite a lot on what anyone else can say, what anyone else is capable of telling us seems like an interesting story. What other people defines as good or nice or potent or powerful. So it's, I guess the proper definition would be an eternal encounter with all of those things that affect me. Once again, the world affecting the subject, so to speak. Okay, now taking to the level of, yeah, I am being affected by many other stories that are not mine exactly. And all of those don't just affect me, but also do so in a way in which I find myself to be actually altering the way in which I keep on existing, and not out of a bad habit of any sort, not out of a negative way of existing, but rather out of a different mode, one in which I don't have any more the capacity in itself to recognize what is it that I want. I just interpret that anything which I hear might be, I wouldn't say correct, I would rather say powerful enough, so that with more and more stories, I can then make a good enough judgment about the world. And I need to keep on consuming any kind of story about existence so that with enough, so to speak, accumulated knowledge, and at some point it finally becomes sensible enough. And I see that happening. I guess I am saying all of this I see, and I see that being the case for many, many instances of existence right now. It's weird to see once again how incapable we have become of trusting ourselves, and it's not that I don't understand why. It isn't something completely out of nowhere that has happened. It does have some very good roots on the past, on reality, on already lived instances of, oh yeah, you know what? I am going to trust myself for these occasions, and it absolutely backfires. Okay, but at the same time, it is. But I am somehow willing to, in regards to some stuff, and I am willing to never think out anything out the things that I say I like or I have an interest on for some reason. I don't know. It's kind of crazy. That's what I feel like. And I think it's way more common than what we can sometimes even realize. I am trying, personally, I am trying to some degree, get rid of that. Not exactly just have more agency. I still have agency over my own existence. Even, I guess, from the moment in which you are born, you get to have some agency. Yeah, basic enough, good enough. But it's more along the lines of have enough trust so that I can actually, in my case, make something, say something, and be capable of understanding it as something that I can follow instead of something that just for the sake of being expressed gets stated and not for the sake of contributing any kind of weight of actual potential, you know? That's where I find myself surprised that it's such a hard task. Not, I want to trust, as always. It's an ideal scenario if I say, oh yeah, just for myself. No, I don't see that happening only on myself. The normal occurrence is that everybody doubts themselves quite a lot, and that all of us carry some degree of distrust in our own abilities and whatnot. And to some degree, it even is necessary to have that. One of the biggest ways to think about it, in which it doesn't feel like such a bad thing, is, and wow, yeah, if you're capable of doubting yourself, it might mean that you're in the right track or that you are doing something good enough because you get to not fully trust your own self. You're always in the lookout. I don't know. Okay, I get your explanation, but at the same time, it doesn't make it be less annoying. No, it doesn't make it be less disrupt disruptful in my own life. It doesn't make it be less capable of damaging me in at some point. And it's not such a rare occasion or not such a rare occurrence that, yeah, I actually end up saying, thinking, assuming that things are not going to be so bad without actually realizing that, yeah, maybe they are going to be. Maybe if I don't get to commit myself to something, consequences always come. Okay, the ones that will come after not having chosen anything might as well be quite negative. And I don't know, it's also part of life, I guess, as we keep on experiencing everything without sometimes stopping to think what it actually means or what is the lesson that can be learned from things that we already experienced. It's this habit of I need to actually stop. I need to actually sit down and rethink my own existence or measure what was it that I gained or feel any sense of happiness, hopefulness, contentment. I can only be somebody as long as I don't think which somebody I have become, And that's the constant struggle. Yeah, I don't want to sometimes. I remember actually thinking about it. I don't actually want to be somebody if it means so much of a not just in a basic sense bad, but rather in a more proper manner, disruptable existence, That's what I don't want. I don't need to be somebody if it means that I'm going to make my own existence so miserable just because I wanted to be somebody. Wow. But I don't know, man. That's just how we are accustomed to being and whatnot. Not always it is something so bad. It's just that at some occasions, in some instances, the norm is that we can't actually stop to think out which is it that we have chosen for us. And, and I personally I have slowly realized, yeah, I can actually do that most of the time. So I don't have a reason to be against actually trying in even to look out for those moments of realization about what is it that I have just chosen. So it feels nice to be capable of not exactly pursuing them, but at least accepting that they make everything else smoother. So letting them happen more, I guess. That's the state of things so far. And yeah, just because of that, I can say that yeah, I'm happy. Personally speaking, I'm happy. I don't know. I think that we are quite accustomed to not accepting that we are happy, and in some cases, like this one, we are even in very happy states, and we just cannot acknowledge that. That's I don't know. That's also completely different topic, but yeah, this method of oh yeah, you know what? I cannot say that I'm happy because if I say that I'm happy, I might make someone else feel so bad. This almost condescending way of perceiving happiness as a not in itself as an extrinsically negative thing when I express it to others. Because if I don't get to have it intrinsically, then it means that anybody else who has it in their hands is maybe actually not somebody who I need to have around. This narrative of, okay, we all have to be suffering because I myself might be suffering. And I don't know, it's. I'm good. My point is, I'm good. And yeah, I think that most people are at some point or other. Even if life, once again, even if life is not at its brightest right now, we're all mostly good, man. And I am not angry if I have to say that or if I have to acknowledge that. I don't feel like it's something worth getting angry for. There are many other issues to worry myself with, and that one in particular is not one of them. So, yeah, life is good. We are good. And that in itself is good. So, life continues. Everything else comes. And I guess, as always, no? More than anything else, because we can also realize that sometimes we are actually good. And the whole ordeal of having to confront the rest of life feels far more feasible than if we had to just assume that things are going to keep on existing without any point in time, or yeah, without any instance of us stopping to actually see if they are indeed good or not. And I don't know. I'm happy. That's my whole point. I'm happy. I hope. I hope everyone else gets to be happy. I guess. That's it. That's it. But well, I don't know, man. I think that so many things have been going on also lately. I was sort of starting with that earlier today. A lot has been happening actually. It's not that nothing has happened so far. It's as always many things. None of them actually dramatic enough is the proper term. I don't think so. Or heavy, heavy enough to make them deserve an instance of time, an instant in our own existence. So it's it's good. It's it's just time to keep on learning, moving forward, and trying to be as much of a proper good person as we are, or even more than that. And yeah, at that point, yeah, it's I guess it's also something along the lines of, and suddenly it does become quite a bit complicated because it adds more and more layers. It's like, I don't know, how much energy do you need to keep on peeling layer upon layer on an infinitely expanding onion, you know? At some point, it feels like the onion is going to overwhelm you because more and more layers appear. There is no stop at that, but it's also part of the prospect of existence, I feel like. That makes it better to live, actually, to realize that sometimes we are not even close to being done with the things that we say we like. And that's also good. It's it's always that thing of sometimes I don't actually think out what is it that I am saying. I just say it for the sake of saying it, and I don't realize that I am at some point complaining about something that isn't actually bad, complaining about something that isn't actually negative, that it doesn't make me have a worse existence. I'm just complaining. In some cases, yeah, more so because of this new thing in cultures that is, I complain not because it even affects me, but rather because I imply that someone else might be going through this thing or not having this thing. Therefore, I complain for their sake, just in case, you know? And it's also trying to slowly not have much more of that exist. But it's good. Even if it happens, it's not actually the end of the world. I don't. I don't know. I think that, yeah, in any human's existence, there are those instances in which you realize, oh, actually, this thing might be quite harmful, quite negative to have, quite useless to sustain, and I might need to get rid of it. And in some other moments, it's actually just something that, yeah, I have, but it doesn't impact me negatively. I don't have an obligation towards the removal of it. Therefore, I don't have an obligation towards a negative perception of anything that happens in my own life, that exists in my own existence, in my own, yeah, in my vicinity, or even in my own self, you know. And that is in itself already also, at least personally speaking, good enough. Otherwise, it just feels like something way too not complicated, boring. This eternal need to complain out stuff that doesn't matter. I guess, yeah, I haven't thought about it like that. I think I remember, okay, it's going to take a while. Let me try talk a little bit. I had been always thinking about something funny. That is how intrinsic it is to us to be complaining out the stuff. And something funny that happens is how sometimes it feels wrong to complain out things that are already normalized, but at the same time, because we require so much to complain out things, we end up doing so. The act of complaining and engaging in that activity only with things that don't actually matter, that don't actually have any kind of impact in our own existence. And so we become capable of it's not exactly a distraction, it's a mode of obstruction of our attention with everything else that doesn't matter. And by doing that, then yeah, we live a life full of complaints towards things that don't affect us. And when it comes to the necessity of, not the necessity, just the act of complaining, when we engage in that towards the things that might as well allow a little bit of change in our own existence, that's when we suddenly find out that, wow, yeah, you know what? I might slowly get to change. I might slowly get to do more in those areas in which I was sometimes even giving up, sometimes even already settling down because I chose not to ever question what I at some point already or thought for the last time and then conceived as the final opinion that I would have on anything. I think it's funny to see that because sadly, yeah, the norm is that we have many things of that order, that it happens very often that we find ourselves lost in things that don't matter. And instead, when we need it, let's say like this, it's not even that we never can go towards something that matters, but after being accustomed to a life of complaining about everything that doesn't matter and gaining nothing, once we have to observe something that does possess any kind of weight in our own existence, because the methods that we have gotten accustomed to utilize already all lead to nothing, we tell ourselves that it's fine to not choose something different. So, what happens then is, yeah, when we needed to make a decision, when we needed to take any kind of direction towards something more useful, let's say, something more impactful in our own existence, we are not capable of engaging in that activity. I say complaining. You can utilize observation also, you know? Complaining, I guess, is the most normal term utilized, but I would rather call it observation. It's just how unwilling we are to observe anything of a more serious tone. And that is what I think keeps us quite stuck. Because, yeah, as I was saying, you have to search something that matters, and you suddenly find out that, wow, the things that I want to talk about, I don't possess actual tools to do so. I don't possess a will enough, a will strong enough to do so. I don't possess enough patience to do so. And at that time, it also comes sort of hand in hand with that. The old feeling of, wow, I am so incapable of actually searching anything for myself. I guess that's the. I would say like that. That's the spirit of these modern times, that nothing truly matters all that much. Therefore, it is fine for us to lose ourselves so much in the discussion of this category. Menial things, meaningless things. Therefore, once we actually needed to engage in the discussion of something a little bit more important, what we end up finding out is that, wow, yeah, I have only been talking about something that doesn't matter at all. Now I need to engage in the discussion of something that might as well change the whole course of my life. You know how hard that is? You know how unprepared I might be? You know how much you're expecting out of me? That's not something that I can do. And even if I can, I can engage in that. I might not gain anything out of that. Nobody might gain anything out of that. Therefore, not only I start to already engage in the activity in itself with a negative perception of the possible results that I will gain, but all of us, so to speak, are at some level aware that, yeah, we are not going to get anywhere. This is going to be meaningless. I think that, I don't know, I was saying it earlier, uh, cynical behavior, the, I don't know, I guess that cynical is just a far more positive term or confusing term than depressive mental state of, yeah, I'm not engaging in the world in a way in which I actually benefit out of the engagement that I utilize on it, you know? I'm not doing things because I want to, because I hope to, but rather because I am just accustomed to, because I am expecting myself to do so, and nothing else. And that's what always surprises me. How little we get to actually look at what we do, where we go, what we talk about. It's it's crazy, man. But I don't know. It's as always, no? I guess that it slowly gets to become more and more fixable, solvable, addressable, noticeable as a thing to begin with. Once we try to at all look at it, otherwise it just feels, yeah, as something bad. But if life was full of only bad things, we might as well not be living here at this point in existence. It's just that we have a habit out of creating negatives and bad points onto everything that exists. Even if it is something wonderful for ourselves, it's once again, it's not that it's not understandable, it's just the norm. And sometimes we forget that it happens, and sometimes we end up surprised when we, out of nowhere, say something bad about the thing which we are supposed to love, or the thing which we are supposed to dedicate ourselves to. I don't know, man. Human nature is surprising on one hand, on the other one, at this point in existence, not so unexplainable. Or at least, let's say like this, yeah, just fail-safe explanation based on behaviors and already given conditions and whatnot. Not so unexplainable. There is still that extra degree of, yeah, yeah, there are this handful of things that we can't ever explain with whole measurements. Like, oh, yeah, yeah, you know what, I don't know, 70% of the things that you think about, you will have a negative thought for, because the tendency for the human brain end up aligning exactly only with that initial 70%, and a 30% of what you think about is going to get filtered as the most positive thing ever. No, we, at least right now, we don't exist in that era in which we can mindlessly look at stuff and never wonder if they are in the right place, in the wrong place, being useful for us, useless. But at least we have some basic rough explanations, and from there everything else works itself around. As long as, yeah, we're engaged in the understanding of things. I don't know, man. I don't think it's all that surprising. Just that, yeah, as always, no? It's that somehow unnoticed, undiscussed aspect of life that otherwise would be far more normal for us. But it's good. I cannot complain. I actually cannot complain. But yeah, that's it, I guess. I don't know, man. There is so much to say, as always. It feels like I haven't, yeah. Let me say that. Let me say that. I have been struggling quite a lot personally with understanding this thing. Okay, I have been in the eternal process of understanding what is it that we want to do. Personally, what is it that I want to do? I finally traced back to, I guess, my origin, something along those lines of, yeah, sometimes you have to remember that you should have an interest of sorts in doing what you also like to see. so to speak. And yeah, I know. I don't want to actually get overwhelmed with information. I can feel that I say way too much. I have a tendency to speak way too much. At least here, it's that funny thing of not having someone else to bounce off. Therefore, I don't have that capacity to actually shut up when I need to shut up. It's the endless noise machine, you know. It's I understand the meme more of the grown-ups being because it's literally me. I, it's so much noise, so much verbosity all the goddamn time, but at the same time, it's fine. It's just that I don't know. As I said, there are so many things to say, brother. There is so much to understand, to see, to think about. There is not enough time, almost in our whole life. I think I am trying to be honest. Unavoidably, I am incredibly grateful that I started quite early here with the acquisition of knowledge. I think if the thinking faculties, so to speak, don't find themselves deteriorated so much in the future, it's a reasonable expectation or declaration to say at some point, maybe around 50 years, 60 years, the average person can create enough schemas of things so that the world itself makes a lot more sense than what it does to a younger person, like the majority of us, you know? Somebody who is in their 20s or 30s, even worse if you are even younger, you know? And I don't know, it's just that it's fun to keep on thinking of this stuff. Because as always, yeah, no matter how much it is an overabundance of things, on the other hand, sadly it doesn't happen that we have many other places to talk out the stuff. I don't know. I am so angry still. I don't talk out that. Yeah, I don't like to talk out that. I am nobody to complain about it. But at the same time, it's so frustrating to see how little we have any kind of factual educational content of sorts on Twitch. How it's you, I there is something funny that happens. Let me let me tell you a story. there is this whole perspective in oh wow, yeah, you can only produce what everybody is already consuming because that guarantees success. Okay, that's the easy solution. You know what's also a good solution? That you also do something that you actually care about. This idea of wow, yeah, I am going to utilize my time on talking about what I find interesting myself because I truly have an interest of any kind on things, and that is going to ring a bell in other people who might as well have any kind of minimal interest in those same things as myself. And that doesn't happen so much with knowledge here on Twitch. And that's fucking depressing. Aren't we all supposedly grown ups? Why is nobody talking about stuff of that sort? Why even the most, oh yeah, this person is so clever type of streamers only find themselves in such spaces after very, very long hours and having instances of yeah, you know what? Let's actually talk out something quote unquote deep. for 3 minutes, and after that, I don't know, time to go back to doing something else. Let's keep it safe. To doing something else. It's it's this whole lack of assumption of responsibility that makes it so easy to never feel like, yeah, you know what? It's something that I actually have some degree of, let's not say in itself responsibility, some degree of capacity to modify in any way. I don't need to perceive it as that. It's not something that I have to influence. Therefore, it's not my problem. It's your. Why are you not asking for more of this? Wow, you are so. No, that's that's utterly insulting. But we all feel better if what I always say to some degree. What makes me feel so much better if I can make an enemy out of something else instead of assuming that the responsibility lays on my own hands. Why? Because I try to say that I am a grown up, yet at the same time, I cannot reckon with the reality that, yeah, I also do have some responsibilities in this world that literally lay on my hands and that I have to do something about myself, that don't get to move themselves into any other order of existence if I don't engage on them, you know? But I don't know. That's just how most of things in this world of grown kids work. Many unrecognized issues of that same sort, I guess. But it's fun, it's fun. It's not like it's the end of the world because of them so far, so we are still in time to at least look at them, I guess. Yeah. I don't know. I think that, yeah, it's this is more than good enough. That's that's the sensation, sorry, that I always have. And that's, I guess, more than what I should actually ask for. So it's it's good as it is, man. No need for much more. Otherwise, as always, it stops being so honest. That whole degree of, oh yeah, you know what? I should try to be honest in some way. I should try to have some sort of honesty that makes things make sense. Otherwise, you know what's something sad? When I realize that somebody's lying to me. Not when they lie. People can lie every single day of their lives and never be truly discovered in their lies. But when you see somebody trying their best to lie about this stuff, that's sad. When you realize that they are already lying, yet they try their best to keep on lying about things, that's something crazy. And yeah, if if this went like that, this will become quite a sad spectacle of sorts, you know. And I don't know. I guess I don't know. Things sell, emotions sell, supposedly. So maybe we could rationalize it so that even with all of that friction, this will keep going. But I don't know. Personally, I don't function like that, so I still prefer this in this form. The thing which feels the nicest along the lines of what we are capable of actually doing. But yeah, that's it. That's I said before, all that I can ask for, or even far more than what I can actually ask for. Yeah, something good. What? Anyways, I don't know, brother. I don't think I have much more to say, or that I want to say much more. I guess. I think we are good. So yeah, I guess. I don't know. Have a good night. Have a good day. Have a good evening. Have a good life. That's what matters. Have a good life, honest life, aware life, conscious life. You know, have something, have anything, but have a desire. Am I my own desires? I guess so. So yeah, have desires so that you can also realize what you have. But yeah, not much more to actually request because yeah, happiness. Be happy. I guess that's what I was missing. Sorry. But yeah, anyways, hydrate. I love that other stuff. I don't know. There was a pinned message. What was it? Affiliate. Affiliate supposedly Saturday. So yeah, if everything goes well, we're going to be seeing ourselves on Saturday. Uh, thank you and good night.